Hey folks, this is Tully and welcome to some more game dev. Coming back with the first combat section of the game, part 2. A bit earlier today, and we kind of started a new setup, basically a forest v3. And for clarity, we started naming these scenes woods just because the forest section was starting to get a little hard to parse. So we're trying another layout for the start of the game, continuing to iterate and try and get this like first experience for the player to be as clean as possible. I think it's coming together. It does feel like there's a little bit of hiccups because it's just been a while since we've done any kind of level design or building of maps, and I've just been a little bit out of the like side project game dev kind of mindset. And so there was a little bit of hiccups in getting some of this stuff working, but I'm feeling pretty good about it now. Hopefully it remains in a good spot. I do want to fix under... Where's this going to be? Generated floor? Let's turn off these ones, because I don't think I want those extending beyond the map. That was a bad setup with the TSV. And then I think if I just hit save, overwrite, and then regenerate the floor from the work in progress, yeah, that should now be fixed. Okay, so for today's stream though, I guess the question is, or like for this second stream today, what are we trying to do? I think it's continuing what we started off on, is just building more of these rooms, continuing to try and figure out like an optimal layout for something that's going to work for the player playing these stages multiple times as they do runs, as they fail, as they die, and then start over, and making it so that these areas don't feel cumbersome and annoying to have to keep going through over and over again. Unlockable characters with the hydration redeem right off the bat, appreciate. I had the water at the ready this time, but if I didn't, it would have been useful to go grab it early. Also, in the previous stream, you did a hydration which I missed. I have redeemed that, or rejected it, so I think you should get the channel points back. Not that it really matters, considering I think everyone has far too many and I don't have anything really to do with them. Something I'll need to figure out eventually, but for the time being, it's fine. So let's see. In between streams, literally as I was waiting for the standby screen to go down, I did update the checkpoint flag design data so that it should start us for the first checkpoint in F8, the first room that we have set up. So if we debug and end the run, so run out of time so that we faint and go back to the goddess realm, hopefully we should be able to just go down and it should start us in F8. So deep forest, and it does. We do need to regenerate the floor textures on this one, not a huge deal. I'm also going to generate the scene menu here because I don't think it has all the new ones. Okay, dungeon, forest, nope, woods, F8. And then in here, we're just gonna come in and overwrite work in progress and then run the room processor, and we're good. Unlockable characters with a question in chat. Are you going to have stuff like purple gas take up more time to move through, but you can remove it permanently by destroying a totem or something? So the purple gas is like representing the like demon lord's miasma, and is kind of representing narratively this idea that the demon lord is going to be resurrected soon. And when that happens, we're going to basically have the game over. We're gonna have a game over anytime that the demon lord resurrects, and that is what this timer is representing, is time until the demon lord basically comes back and the whole game it ends. Ideally, when we do this like game over effect, it'd be nice if there was like a fade cloud or a fade to black and then fade up on like the Demon Lord like ruling over the land, not unlike the title screen. But the kind of core thing that we're moving towards lately, which is kind of a new development, is we're thinking that each part of the game will be a different chapter. So what I'm currently building, this forest section would be chapter 1, and whatever you do at the end of chapter 1 delays the Demon Lord's resurrection. And then it would start chapter 2, and chapter 2 would have like a new time period in a new location where you have to do the set of events in that sandbox, so to speak, in order to be able to stop the Demon Lord from resurrecting again. So we're thinking about breaking it up more in that story kind of way, with the hope that that like makes the game easier to build, honestly. Because I feel like originally I was thinking the game would be more like an open world experience where you start with like the forest and then you would unlock the next part of the map, but you could go back to the forest at any time and you would slowly gain more time, which will allow you to explore more and more areas. But I feel like that methodology, kind of like Majora's Mask was the thinking there, would just end up taking far too long to build. And so moving to more of a like narrative chapter based idea of like you have to do something until you get to the end of that chapter, and then the next chapter is a new area, and it's like you can't go back to the forest again, I think is going to make it so that we can actually finish this thing. So like chapter 1 will take place here, chapter 2 is going to be in like a ruin area, chapter 3 might be somewhere else behind the fog. We have plans, but I don't want to necessarily get into all of that right away. Okay. I think this section feels okay to me. There is some weirdness going on with that first tree. Each time we enter there, it looks like it's not disappearing. What is going on with this tree prop? Is this prop not being destroyed or something? Oh, they're just overlapping pretty poorly. Okay, so I'm just going to change this one. And I'm going to set this to generate lock, so if we regenerate this map, it doesn't overwrite it. I'm just going to clear this tree and probably replace it with a tree here, and then we can do a bit of grass in the front of that. Sure. And then I might also just move this tree forward as well. So tree, and this was 86 round. 3. We're just going to move that forward and then just put like some stones back here. If anything, I think that feels too far back. Okay, this is the thing, when in between streams, I was thinking about how the last stream went, and I think the big thing is I'm playing with like this level of like, oh, this tree is slightly overlapping or feeling weird, and like, yeah, polishing this stuff seems great, but I need to move forward and continue building stuff. So this can clip through for now. I will eventually do a pass on these maps, but I want to figure out if these maps are even going to work. So let's just continue gray boxing stuff. We're going to make content, not pixel push, for lack of a more generic term. Okay, let's build the next map. So we're going to copy this one. I think that's going to be faster than save asing. I think if we just come into the scenes folder, design data, it's not going to be in design data, it's going to be, well, you know what, it's going to be fastest. Let's just do this. Select scene. There we go. So we're going to copy F7. We're going to name this G7 because in our grid it's going to be going over here. Oh, I also wanted to, in here we have the map editor TSV that we've been working on. If I just make a duplicate of this, and we'll name this overworld map, just for keeping track of stuff. Is this the same naming convention? Like, I'm currently on F7 here. right? And then F8. Yeah, so this is laid out the same way. So I think we can kind of use this as a bit of a reference for the spacing. Let's change up the background. Okay, so we currently have a map at F8, which is our start. Maybe we could also set the sizing of these a little bit bigger. Resize, let's make this 50. That might be a bit big, but let's see what happens. By 50. Resize. And then let's set all of these to center aligned and centered. Okay, so we start here. This is our sword pickup. This is going to be our first goal. Then this is going to be... I guess I could do this by boxing these in and then removing the borders. Can I do that? Not easily. Like that. And then this one will be only have a border on the right. And then we're going to go down, border on the bottom. And then this one's going to have a border on the side and on the bottom. This one will just be a side border. And then this one will just have top. And this one will spread out in all directions. Okay, I don't know if this is the best way to do this, but I want to have some sort of easy, like, what room is where. If I kind of get a lot of these built up, it'd be nice to be able to go like, oh, I want to open G7, and just being able to see these in a grid I think will be helpful. Can I do a border style? Yeah, okay, so this will be a shortcut. So you won't be able to go this way normally, but you will be able to go that way eventually. Same thing on this side. Okay. And that's most of what I got figured out at this point. So your path will be start, sword, goal, and then you will go down, loop around here, and eventually be able to come in on this side. You'll pick up an item that will then allow you to exit from this direction. I don't know if this is better or worse than the balsamic one. I feel like the balsamic one is more annoying to try and lay out, but I don't know. I just wanted to try that. I don't know if it's working. Cool. So G7, this is the map we want to work on. We're going to probably want to come in here. Let's copy the F7 room and paste that back in here for reference, mostly so I can see exactly where we're going to enter on. And the water was directly above that, so the water will be here. I'm gonna grab some without the formatting. Same thing here. Okay. And then the main point of this area is going to be that you can't cross here. But we're gonna want to have some sort of like way of forcing the player up to the edge of this river. And then we're going to have you exit out the bottom, probably somewhere around here. And then we're going to want to have that exit on the top as well. So we can grab one of these, and I think exiting somewhere around here would be all right. Okay. So I think that's the general layout. We're going to have a river that runs directly down the center. Maybe this river can bend up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to feel until we get it in-game, so let's not fuss with it. Again, the goal is not to pixel push, it is to just get something in here. And in light of that, I think I'm not even going to worry about the outer edges right now. As easy as it is to build them, I can always do it after I get the general floor plan figured out. So let's not worry about getting every edge of the floor covered. We're just going to clear what doesn't make sense. And same thing on this side. Okay. I think this is feeling okay. We're going to come up this way. You're going to hear someone yell for help. We're going to do a cutscene effect where we reveal these tiles across the river because they're beyond your normal sight radius. We want to flip this. We want the adventurer to feel trapped, not you. So we actually want to kind of perfectly flip this the other way around. So instead of... We're going to move this one here, delete, or replace this with a floor. Then we're going to grab this, drag it down to this side, and then drag this one down to this side. Okay, and then we will have the adventurer backed into a corner here. And as you advance, you'll have to pass by the path here, and we will have a cutscene trigger on one of these two tiles. And if you're on this tile, the first thing that cutscene will do is have you walk towards the river's edge and then reveal all the tiles. But if you're on this one, we'll just skip that step. Sure. And then after that, we'll send you down this way. You'll work your way around the next map, and then you'll come in from the top. I need to fill this in with floor, delete some of these edges. Again, we'll come in and add trees and bushes and stuff eventually, but we want this to feel like a dead end. Now, we will also need a spot where there will be a log that you can smash to make a bridge to cross. I think this spot probably makes the most sense for that. So we'll aim for this one, and it'll fall over. Well, I guess the question is, does it need to be 2 or 1 tile? I'll start with 1 and then we'll see how that feels. Okay, cool. I think that is the minimum amount of energy I need in order to say that that's the minimal amount of thinking I need to do in order to say that I've actually thought this out fairly well. It's doing what I need, but I'm not pixel pushing. I'm not overthinking it. I'm hopefully doing just enough thinking. All right, so then we want to grab this here, change this to G7. And then we're going to need to clear. So we're going to have to come into the props, clear, generate a new map. We're going to generate from TSV. This will rebuild the whole thing. Perfect. And we want to leave these ones here. These ones will get moved to these tiles. And this will eventually enter into G8. Because we're going down from G7. Okay. And then we're going to need to toggle on south. Yes, perfect. And south is going to be transitioning to F8. And we will also need to delete these cutscenes for now, because we don't need those ones. Actually, what's even better is probably just to disable them, because we're going to need cutscenes in this room eventually. So we'll leave those there. And then disable the enemy spawning for the time being. We will eventually want to have like a boar or something, but I'm not sure how that's going to function yet. Because that starts to get into like enemy combatants fighting the NPCs, and I'm not quite sure how I want to do that. Here, I do want a... stump, which will fall over and then create the bridge. Don't know how that's going to totally function at this time, but we'll figure that out later. Yeah, and this is where the the cutscene will happen, either here or here. Either 14 and 9 or 14 and 10 will be where I'll put the cutscene. And we'll need to spawn an NPC, which I don't think Drixie has built me the NPC yet. I don't even know if we figured out if it's a, like who they are in the story. Is it like we know it's an adventurer, and there's going to be a couple of different adventurers part of one group that are kind of scattered throughout this forest that you're going to help in chapter 1, but we don't fully know who this adventurer is. So we might just, maybe I'll just draw a stick figure or something for now. Let's say that's good. I need to update north is the other piece of this. Nope, wrong, west. I need to maybe change my camera angle, because this is west, that's north. But I'm used to building it from the other direction now. So this is going up from G8, so this will be G6. Alright. And then this will be good. Oh, last thing, we need to update the default spawn position, which we're going to put right here. Okay, then I'm going to quickly just overwrite textures and run the processor to make the final texture. And then see if this loads. Yep. And we can go back. Ooh, going back didn't work. This did take us to F8, but it didn't load us in the right spot. Why? Interesting. How did I mess that up? So we're going to F8, that's right, and then we're going to be heading to North 01 entrance and North 02 entrance. That seems fine. F7. Oh, did I say F8? Is that what it was? Ah, yeah, this is F7. Okay. Yeah, I tried to go to a map that doesn't have an entrance on that side. I feel like I should draw this out on a piece of paper to have it like next to me so I can better keep this in my mind. Okay, yeah, if we go to the correct map, everything works. So what does this feel like if we walk forward to, say, right where I want the cutscene to be? Say we're holding on the edge of the map. Yeah, so we would have a little cutscene. We'd maybe have a dialogue for help in the darkness and then reveal the tiles. That might be weird. Maybe we just reveal the tiles and then have the dialogue for help. I think we've got the map stuff mostly kind of figured out. I want to maybe try building this cutscene, because I feel like that's going to be another spot where we're going to hit friction, just because I haven't done it enough. So we're going to say the zone here is woods. That might cause a problem, actually. Let's start there. So cutscenes, forest, generic, goddess realm. We're going to pre-create the folder. Actually, let's just see what happens. The room, how do we normally name these? We've been naming them just with the last few digits, I guess, to save on namespace. So we will just do, this is G7, and this sequence name will be, what do I call this? It's like Trapped Adventurer, I guess, is the simplest. Let's set default trigger, which will generate a trigger based off of the zone, the room, and the sequence name. We'll make it non-repeatable. Let's make it a movement type, because I believe we're going to put this on the ground. And then priority, I don't think we care about. We can do 999, which is our max priority right now, just because this should be a high priority event, but I don't think anything else would ever happen on this same spot. Let's take a look at F8. This one had a cutscene tile. Oh, I didn't even need to change. I literally disabled it so I would be able to reference it. In here, exit room tutorial. Let's drag that down here. Let's try putting it on this tile. We're going to rename this to Trapped Adventurer so it has the same name. Doesn't need it, but it'll be easier for me to keep track of. And then we'll leave the _1, not that it matters. Now, this needs an ability, which is an immediate cutscene, and exit room tile. What type of cutscene is exit room? That'll be under Forest Pt.2 exit room tutorial. It is an end of turn. Okay, so it is not a movement. Interesting. That's intro. Reveal room is an end of turn. Oh, none of these have a response type of movement. Interesting. I wonder when I use movement. Let's see here. So we're going to do the same thing as the exit room. See if that functions. So we're going to change the trigger name here. It will be this trigger name. Here. Why does this also have a priority associated with it? Not to go too far down the rabbit hole. Response priority. Interesting. On enter. It overrides the cutscene's response priority. Or sets it? Yeah, interesting. Because our cutscenes have a priority associated with them as well. But it looks like when we do the priority for, like, entering a tile, it has its own separate priority system. That might be kind of just an oversight, having worked on stuff over the last few years, that I probably built the two systems far enough apart that I didn't realize I had two different priorities. Again, it doesn't matter in this situation because I don't think I'll have another event or cutscene that can happen in this moment. So the priority could be 1 or 0 or negative, and it wouldn't matter because it's not going to have an overlap. But still some oddities there. In terms of dialogue, I guess even if we don't have the character set up, we could do something here. I'm just not sure what this dialogue looks like. Yeah, I guess I haven't thought much further than the helpline. Like, what is Hero doing in this situation? We're on the other side of the river. You know what? Rabbit hole. We're not doing it. We're going to just say that the dialogue right now is the adventurer going help. And then You know what? Best case is this is rigid and bad dialogue, but we're gonna just say that's fine. This will probably be a alignment top center, alignment bottom center based off of where they will be in the screen. This can be a small dialogue. This will probably need to be at least medium. We'll see, maybe it needs to be large. And then that should be enough for me to be able to hit create sequence. So now we should be able to go to our design data sequence folder. We scroll down far enough. And there should be a woods folder, G7, trapped adventurer, which has a sequence that currently just plays the 2 pieces of dialogue based off this trigger name. And these are the 2 pieces of dialogue. Basically, this information gets generated into this scriptable object. And if we just grab that trigger name and make sure that that is set on both of these with immediate cutscene, I think that should play. This will fail to find Adventurer 0 though. Let's go take a quick look at the Goddess Realm and see how the Goddess is created, because that will be a similar setup here, I think. So in the Goddess Realm, if we look at the scene, Goddess spawn. Dungeon NPC spawner tries to spawn the Goddess container with the entity ID Goddess. Okay. So if we go find the IT Goddess container, let's make a copy of this. We'll rename this Adventurer 001. Eventually, I'd love to give this adventurer a name so that this is less generic, but for the time being, this will be fine. If we come into here, it's wild that this is a copy and paste problem, but it's wild that this has a bunch of like attack information inside of it. I don't think it needs any of that. Does this have any other entities hidden on like on any of its components? No, it doesn't look like it. It does generate entity IDs though. The animator gets an entity ID, and then this root object basically gets container entity ID. That all seems fine, should generate fine. I am going to disable this shadow. Drixie has been asking me for a while to disable this shadow because with the fog tech, when the goddess rises up from the clouds, you can see that shadow kind of clipping through the transparency. It's just the shadow and this cloud just doesn't play nice. So Drixie's been asking me to fix that, and the fix will be to just turn off the shadow for now. So if we copy this is underneath of just the room, it looks like. We can then go into scenes, dungeons, woods. This is going to be a constant problem, but we need to keep regenerating every time we make a new scene. So, dungeons, woods, G7. If we paste this in, put it underneath the room, and then instead of... Oh wow, it lined up perfectly where I needed it. I think that implies that I keep putting the primary characters directly in the center of the screen. Yeah, I've done that again, but I think that's that's a good thing. Oh, this is gonna need... Let's just fix this. Adventurer 001 will be the addressable ID for this prefab, and we will come up here and put that there. So it should now grab this new object and spawn it in. It will use the goddess. Maybe that's fine for a placeholder because we don't have any other NPC models yet. So then saving that should have that character appear. We are going to give them the entity ID Adventurer 001. And then we're going to need to modify the sequence. So inside of this trapped adventurer, we should be able to just add a new board reveal tile pattern. And if we do 1110 distance 2 reveal delay, I'm not quite sure what the values there should be. If we take a look at the Demon Castle in TO4 Omni Weapon, I believe we have the Omni Weapon. Is it the intro? Interesting. I do this in a series of steps with a wait in between. It seems impractical, but I guess that's how I've done it. Okay. I can do something similar here. So we can do reveal pattern, and we'll do 11, 10, and this will be distance 2, this will be distance 1, and then we'll add a small delay in between. This doesn't need to be nearly as big of a delay though. Base, delay, add a delay of like 0.1. It doesn't need to be like the intro for the Omni weapon has it like pulsing and revealing everything slowly. We don't need it to be that intense. And then reveal delay increment. Yeah, I think I ended up not using that because it just wasn't working very well. Oh, and we also have a reveal of the first tile. Okay. And then the reveal delay is 0.5. Okay, let's try setting it up the same way here. This, we'll add another delay, drag that to the top, 0.1, and then board, reveal tile. We're going to reveal a specific tile, and that'll be 1110. Hopefully these numbers are correct. Unlockable characters with the hydration, keeping me alive. No! Thank you, unlockable characters, for the save. I did mute myself and did fail to unmute. Good talk. Good talk. Oh, was Twitch unmuted? I heard myself for a second there too. Oh, the audio is super scuffed. That's fine. All right. No one commented on that, so if there was a double up audio in the background, hopefully it was so quiet it couldn't be heard over the music. Because it was only when I faded music down that I even heard it. Okay, so what I was basically saying is I'm going to actually do something I was saying I wasn't going to do earlier, which is that I'm going to use 2 cutscenes, and we're going to have the adjust position for when they step here be 1 cutscene, and then the primary cutscene that's going to play out the same on either tile will be identical. So we'll play this cutscene every time, but this one will be special and will only be on 1510. And it will need to have a higher priority than the base one. And I don't know if the priorities matter, so because there's 2 sets of priorities, both the cutscene priorities and these object priorities. So we're going to make sure that they're both set up correctly until I get around to looking into what's going on with the double up. Cool. I think this should work. I'm excited to see how it blows up. Although we can always be hopeful that it does just work. But I think this is the first time I've made a cutscene in a while. We're going to start with the more dangerous case. So when we step here, it should walk us up to here and then play the cutscene. Chat, I think that just worked. I think quality-wise, I think that could be improved. I think that the rate at which we're revealing the tiles, maybe we do need a half-second delay between each of these. Was that what the prevent or the intro had? Yeah, it had a half-second between each. Okay, so let's give that a shot. That's hilarious. So if we step here after the cutscene is done, it re-triggers this one. That is solvable. So I think all we have to do for that part is inside of this one, we can add a required flag, which is that this ID is not started. So you must not have had this event for this adjust cutscene to be valid. Let's give that a shot. I think that's still triggered. Okay. Interesting. Also, it feels like the goddess pops into existence instead of like sliding up with the tile. There's something a little odd with that, but that might just be NPC text. So, okay, I'm gonna walk down. I'm walking down. Yeah, it still adjusted our position up, even though the flag was no longer valid. So this cutscene data, when it actually fires the ability ID with trigger name, how does this work? The trigger name goes into the cutscene triggers. And then this cutscene trigger This gets put into the list of on-enter events. So when we enter a tile, it adds these. Here it looks through them all, and it tries to do the ability.perform. Right, because these are actually abilities. So if we look at cutscene, immediate cutscene, this one, this is actually triggering a cutscene as part of the ability, which is by default play immediately and blocking, meaning the player can't move around while the cutscene is happening. So it is using the back-end cutscene trigger system. So if the flags are incorrect, it should still fail. Trigger immediate, get possible cutscenes, which goes through based off that trigger name and tries to get all cutscenes based off that trigger name. It sorts them. Oh. Interesting. I understand the difference between the two priorities now. Okay. So I'm just going to go over this aloud for my own sake as well, so that I just remember. This priority is for if two cutscenes have the exact same trigger name, it determines which one happens first. However, this priority is if you have two cutscenes on the same tile, this priority determines in which order they execute in. Okay, so they are slightly different and they both have their purposes, but they're very minor and very unlikely. So like if we were to have this just be like this twice and then change the trigger name of the adjust position to be the exact same trigger name, then I think it would still work because of the actual triggers being the same. But because our trigger names are different, this priority is the only one that matters. And these could have the same priority and it wouldn't affect anything because they're different names. Okay, that still doesn't explain why this isn't preventing this one from firing. So I'm going to quickly do a little debugging. We've actually had our kind of everything just work. We've had most everything just work for this stream so far, so I think it's okay to do a little bit of looking around here. And see if we can figure out what is going on. So when we trigger a cutscene, let's look at the backend cutscene manager. When we trigger a cutscene, somewhere in here, it should be setting a flag. Get flag states, okay. Because I definitely built some sort of system that says cutscenes can only trigger once. Cutscene gets cutscene state, okay. This cutscene state says, is this cutscene triggered? That's not actually using a flag. Am I wrong? I thought we generated a unique ID for every cutscene, and once it's been triggered, we set that flag. Here's the required flags. Oh no, that's something else. Okay. Oh, here. and here. Okay, yeah. I'm not crazy. So when we trigger a cutscene, we make sure to call this set complete, and that happens both here okay, it's happening in multiple places, but either way it should be fine. And it's setting a flag to complete for the design data ID. So if we look at our cutscene design data, which is going to be a JSON file, that'll be inside of here. We should have generated near the bottom here a addressable name of this. I can't check the ID, but I think it's based off of the trigger name, so that should be the same. Let me take a quick look at how we generate the cutscenes. Cutscene design data. Design data. Okay, in here, how do we generate this ID? Where does it get set from? ID is equal to the trigger name. Hashed. Okay, so yeah, so it is the trigger name. So I'm not wrong with my setup. This should function. If I have this required flag must be not started, it should not trigger this cutscene because this should be set to complete by that point. Okay, we're gonna debug a little bit. We're not derailing too much here. It's just hey, why doesn't this work when I'm pretty positive it should? That's wrong. Attach Unity debugger. There we go. I'm going to expect first that this gets hit, and I'm going to validate the ID as being set to complete. And then I think we should get another call here. Is complete? Is that where we would be blocking it? No, it would be under the required flags is valid. Which is here. Okay, a couple of breakpoints. So we're going to walk forward. We're going to say near the edge of the river so that we hit this one first. So we're getting possible cutscenes. We're going to find a possible cutscene here eventually based off trigger name. I'm just going to skip over it because I know that that part works. And then we're setting the ID. This value is being set to complete. Okay, we're just gonna hold on to that value. Actually, can we just validate that is the same one? 4, 2, 5, 3, 9, 2, 3. Yeah, that looks identical. Okay, so that is being set to true and being set to complete. I guess I could have validated, I could have gone into the set flag to make sure that it is finding a flag with that ID. Oh, we're hitting an error message. Oh, because it can't find the Adventurer 001. Oh, this error might be why we're running into the problem. Interesting. Why are we getting this one first? Oh, I guess it's just checking it because it was first in the list. Oh, and it doesn't, it just adds it to the list, so the response priority still matters. Okay, it's fine. This is all okay. We're gonna skip over all this. This one is now checking the adjust position. So if we come into here, we're looking for the trigger name adjust position, which is going to be one of the last ones, I think. So if the trigger names are equal, we should hit this breakpoint. We do. The trigger name is still this. Okay, is it repeatable? It is not repeatable. Is it complete? It is not set to complete. And we're going to check the flag state, which is a different flag state, and is not started. So it will say that it is not complete. Are required flags equal to 0? Interesting. It does not have any required flags associated with it. So that would be the problem. Why it's playing is because these required flags that I'm setting it on are not being saved into the actual data. Interesting. Actually, I guess we could have checked that here. Yeah, it has no required flags associated with it. So if I delete this entry and then, I don't know, modify this to be like 98 or something, and then hit save while we're not in play mode, and then go back here, it's not here. Oh, there's a step I'm missing. When I generate this cutscene through this tool, which is what we've been doing all stream, it auto builds a JSON file based off of the information I put in here. But when I modify this, it doesn't auto save and update the JSON files because I felt like that was going to be too cumbersome. So I need to parse my cutscenes to re-update the data. So once I do that, then we have all the information here, and it has re-updated the flags. Yeah, it's just, again, not used to working with this stuff because I just haven't been working on the side project a lot lately. I think we can just, honestly, just delete all breakpoints at this point. It's fine to leave it running, I think. Don't need to stop. Okay, so now this should work as I intend. So if we come up here, we trigger the cutscene. There are some errors because there's no face. And then yeah, now it doesn't cause me to move when I go here. It didn't trigger. Perfect. So exactly what I wanted. Couple of problems. Problem number one, there is no Adventurer 01. Let's fix that. Even if it's just placeholder for now, let's hook up a character. This is going to be under the art section, which is what we're looking at, but not under the sprites or the props or the dungeon. It's going to be under character portraits, and Drixie did make me some of these, so we could do... Which one is it trying to get? It's trying to get base face and hello. Okay. So base face isn't really needed anymore because we've ended up just putting all of the information directly in the texture rather than trying to do like a face only version. But I think I just need to just hook it up the same way for now. Okay, and then this will be hello, capital set. Okay, so that should give us another character who will look like the goddess. I think this NPC is similar, but just a different hairstyle. In fact, it might have been a different attempt Trixie did, but just ended up saving it out just in case we needed it, which today we need it. Yeah, I think there's a reason we went with the other versions. That'll work though. It's not complaining anymore. I'm still a little confused on why the NPC is popping into position when we reveal. Because it looks like the tile, like, slides up and then the character appears, which it shouldn't do. Yeah, it definitely slides up and then spawns. So if we just look at the game, or look for the adventurer when the game is running before that, we should still see them. Yeah, the container is here. The character is set to on. If I just toggle this on, interesting. It repeats. Oh, even more crazy. So if we toggle this off and then toggle it on, oh, but it doesn't happen if we pause the game? No, it still does. What is happening? So if we hit pause, we can see that it exists in the world. But if we go to game, oh, it's there? What if I unpause? What? She disappears for a second? What is this doing? Oh, this is not visibility as in can you... Oh, okay. I thought this was visibility as in whether the character is visible, but this is like more like sight. Okay, maybe that's a bad name for that script in retrospect. What is causing... I feel like that's also taking a second to appear as well. No, let's do this one. Okay. So something is causing the character to disappear when we turn them on, and then a few moments later reappear. Ooh, could it be the animation? The character has an animation idle. When we toggle them, let's drag the animator down here. So if we go to scene, actually, can we see it here if we toggle? Yeah, the character starts its animation. Okay, we gotta click off. No, please stop. Let me have control. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, it's not letting me move, but it looks like the character is starting in Southeast Walk, and I'm gonna guess that there is nothing there. Let's stop. There we go. Does this character have a walk? It's empty? Yeah, the data isn't there. All right, let's try switching to our debug tools behind me here, and then we'll hit slice and animate characters. I did revert some file changes recently because I had a ton of animation changes. I'm gonna guess... No, there's still nothing here. Really? The goddess still has some walk and idols. Yeah, the idols exist. But there's nothing assigned here in the walks. Interesting. Okay, well that's the problem, is basically when the character loads up in the walk animation, and then proceeds to walk one, like, animation cycle, which is nothing, it's just transparency, and then switches to the idols. So that's why it takes a second for them to appear. Let's see if we run the slice and anim characters again, if that helps. It's also possible that the goddess is a very old setup, that it's maybe just broken, and we need to reformat that character in A-Sprite, maybe re-download. Yeah. What about like something like Death? Does that have animations? It does. What about Hit? That also has animations. Just not the walks. Okay, something's messed up there. Oh, is it because it's under walk loop? It's under walk loop. Interesting. What if we just make one of the idols the default animation? How do I do that? Like that. Okay, what if we make that change? That should fix it. I don't know if the character will be facing the right direction, but that should at least fix the weird pop. Yeah, that's better. Can we choose the character's facing? I feel like that was a thing I saw here, right? Yeah, initial facing. So we can have initial facing west, I believe. Which should face away from hero. Yeah, okay, that looks better. So then we'd want to add a enemy to this location. Do we have the boar? I'm not even sure we have the boar set up. Let's just set the patrol to 10, 10, 10, 10. I don't know if that'll work, but we can try it. Okay. And then if we take a look at the enemy prefabs, which are somewhere around here, yeah. Currently we're using this enemy container as the only character, but if we come in here and make a boar, and in that boar instead of using the bubble slime animation, what if we use the wild boar animation? Here. That might be all we need to do to swap in to the boar character. We just need to set up an addressable ID for IT or And then in here, instead of loading this prefab, load the boar. And then initial facing east. Okay, let's give that a shot. Whoa. Okay, different problem there. Yeah, lots of problems. Okay. Find nearest foe failed, and the game breaks when that happens. Interesting. Oh. No, that's not what happened. What happened was the boar found the NPC as the nearest enemy, but the NPC doesn't have stats associated with them. So it failed for that reason. Okay. Let's try and figure out what's going on with the animation glitching. Oh. We are switching between jump and defense over and over and over again. What are our parameters? Interesting. We do not have any parameters. We should have way more than just death and run, I would think. Huh. Oh, is the boar setup close to correct, but not quite correct? Because these should really be melee 1. I don't even know if we have a defense. How did it generate these when these aren't like default parameters? Okay. Let's fix the boar. Let's run a sprite. Idle, run, jump, defense, melee, death. Okay, actually, can we do... Why would you not let me do this? Let me open this A-Sprite file. Oh, because it's complaining. I see. There was an error. Okay, so if we open that in this version of A-Sprite, it looks like it should be melee 1 for the attacks. So we're going to change this to melee 1. And same thing with the other one, the south-facing one. We'll change that to melee 1. Run, I don't think we have a run. Death, we have cast. We can change the jump to cast. So this jump can become cast 1. Is that the correct naming convention? Yes, cast 1. Okay. So that can be cast 1. And then we will do the same thing for the north jump. Okay. So these will be cast attacks, which I think works fine. We have run, idle. I think run is supposed to be walk. Idle. Walk, loop, it looks like. Okay. And then defense. I don't think we have anything even close to defense. Cast, melee, death, hit. Oh, is defense supposed to be hit? Yeah, it's not much of anything. We'll say that's the hit for now. We've actually cut hit recently, and we're kind of seeing how that feels, but we'll leave it hooked up. First time chatter, Daxody, welcome. How are you doing this fine day? Perfect. Okay, so that should be a better representation of the boar. Let's export this sprite sheet. We're going to export over this PNG. Or is it this one? If we go up and go look at the bubble slime. Okay, yeah, it's supposed to be this one. So we'll export over top of that one, overwrite, and then we'll export over the JSON file. Good. Set to array. That should export everything. Cool. Then we're going to come into here, we're going to delete the animation folder, and then we're going to slice the character and anim again, and that should regenerate the whole Unity animation with everything from Sprite's data. And that should have everything set up now correctly, it looks like. Okay, so then we'll run and we'll walk forward and see if the boar is still glitching, but this should resolve the animation issues. It's 4 a.m. in the night or morning, depending on who you ask, but to answer your question, pretty good. Well, I'm glad. We're doing all right too. This is the second stream of today. Kind of working through some cutscene stuff, as well as kind of getting the first few rooms rebuilt. We've been kind of playtesting and changing and playtesting and changing, and this is like the third version of our like initial kind of game loop. I don't know. I feel like I'm pixel pushing a lot, like just kind of tweaking things, but I also feel like this first part is going to define everything else we make for the rest of the game. So trying to get this part right feels important. So that board didn't show up at all. So if we take a look in here, actually, let's even just look at the idle animations. It does look like it set up all of these correctly, but if we, what is the initial starting one? Walk loop. Okay. So if we take a look at walk loop, does that have sprites? It does. Okay. Idle? Yeah. So these all had animations, so why was the character not rendering at all? Oh, what did I click? Oh, I transitioned to the other room. And now we're broken. Okay. Game's looking pretty good. Loving the gizmos. What are you referring to when you say gizmos? Curious, are you using the Sprite importer? What is... I'm not familiar with an Sprite importer. What I'm doing is importing the JSON file. So, okay. I'm not going to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but essentially, anim processor. I spent, honestly, far too long in some regards, but it's also been very handy. I built a processor script that goes through a specific set of folders in my system called characters, and it tries to read in a JSON file at the PNG location. So whatever the PNG location is, it tries to read in a JSON file in the same location, and that JSON file that it reads in is from Sprite. We can see that by double clicking on this. So this is what the JSON data that's exported, essentially. And then I read in all this information, and from that information, I manually generate a animation controller and all of the animation states, and manage all the transitions between all of those animation states. So it's all custom, essentially. Oh, you just mean like the actual like gizmos in here? Yeah. If I go back to the previous scene, a lot of this is set up so that I can change like props. So I can, maybe I don't have to change scenes, but I can just come in here and I can make like a prop up here, and that just exists. I can come in here and I can just like change this to be like some grass. I can change this one in the back section. There's kind of just different categories to be some stones. In the front, I can add like a little bit of grass there, and then if I just hit save and walk in, all those props will just appear. At least if I make the game large enough. Can't see the tree I placed because it's outside of Hero's sight vision. Okay, what's going on with this boar? Missing texture, missing runtime. Oh, do we actually figure out the runtime animation somewhere from the entity name? It's been a while since I've tried to make a different enemy type. A really long time. We've mostly just been using the slime because we've been so stuck in kind of the initial tutorial stuff for so long. How do I set this up again? So if we look at this enemy controller, does the slime have a... let's see, bubble slime? It's not set with an addressable ID, so I'm not dynamically loading it. This is bubble slime. Okay. Did I just fail to... Oh, I deleted everything. Duh. When I deleted the whole animation folder and regenerated everything, I now need to go back into Boar, go into the sprite renderer. Oh no, it's still here. I wonder, Unity sometimes messes this up actually. I've seen this in the past, where it looks like it has the reference, but it's actually confused and doesn't. I'm gonna give that a shot. Perfect. Okay. I see. Interesting. I wonder if there's anything the A-Sprite importer could have made easier there. I'm biased since my coworker works on it, but effectively it's just an official Unity package that reads A-Sprite files directly and creates tiles and animations for you. Oh, no, I didn't find that when I was originally doing the research. I built this thing like 3 years ago. Maybe longer? And I've been slowly editing it and working on it. I think, you know what? You jog a memory. I think I did see it after I had already built a good chunk of it. Like either it did exist and I just didn't know about it, or I built something before it existed. I'm not sure. But either way, I do remember seeing something about it, but I feel like it didn't quite do everything I wanted. But again, that might have been a while ago. Yeah, okay. So then if it's only 1 or 2 years old, then it's possible that I set this up before, and because I already have my own tech, it doesn't make sense to kind of swap at this time. Maybe eventually it would make sense to do that, but right now it does most everything I want. And in general, like a lot of my code is just like stuff I've built over the years, and it feels like it's just more flexible to know your own systems, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's still failing here. Okay. Oh, I don't think it does animators like you do right now. Okay, that might be the ticket, is that I wanted to actually have it all be driven by Unity State Machine stuff. And is that right? Is it that it only uses Unity's like legacy animation system? That might be the missing I don't know. That might be the missing functionality that I was like, nah, it's not worth swapping. But it's pretty straightforward though in the end. I mean, I say that, but essentially I'm just processing each sprite in the directory, going through and finding any JSON files. If there's not a JSON file, I say it's not an animation sprite, basically. And then I just go through, create an animation controller, if there isn't one, basically. Otherwise, I load it. And then I just, like, set up a root state machine, or a reference to the root state machine. And then I just go through and for every meta tag associated with it, I just like create a animation component. And then there's a little bit of magic with the actual like transitions themselves. So like I go through and there's like a concept of idle transitions versus like triggers. It's a whole thing. I don't know. I say it's not that complicated, but it definitely has been built up over time. Okay, so we got the boar set up, and the boar is now facing the adventurer. They feel fairly trapped, but we just don't have... This is the first time we're really getting into, like, combat with an NPC and an enemy. Because normally the NPC, like, state manager that I built was only for the goddess in the goddess realm. And it was, like, a non-combat location. But this is our first attempt at having, like AI NPCs that are on your side fight AI combatants. We might need to... this might be a separate thing. It might be a different stream. It might not be worth going all the way down this rabbit hole this evening because it's going to take too long. Where is the adventure I just made? What did I call that? Adventure 001 container? This thing here. Yeah, it doesn't have a stats component. That's the thing it's complaining about. Is that because NPC... Yeah, it just doesn't add them. Because I didn't think they were necessary. So if I just uncomment this, and I give it a Alliance of Hero for NPCs, then I don't need this here. I guess I'll just comment this one out. Add status is fine. It shouldn't have any abilities, I don't think. I have no idea what this is going to do, but I think it's worth quickly trying. Let's go to stretch. Unlockable characters with the redemption. I'm going to raise the standing desk and do some standing for a little bit. While I'm doing that, let's switch to this one. Okay. Unlockable characters remind me if I forget to unmute again. Okay, I remembered to unmute. Cool. Let's walk up here. Help. Okay, so the boar is taking turns. Is it going to attack? It did attack, but then we failed on something else. Okay, cool. That's neat though. So it's mostly working. It's finding a enemy unit, which is an NPC, which is of type Hero Alliance, so it's on our side, and it did target them, and then it tried to attack them, but it just didn't, like, something in the attack sequence is failing because this doesn't, it's not set up to actually receive damage. Okay, cool. Let's do something about that. How do we get around this? I guess the easiest thing is just not to have the boar for now, because realistically I'm opening a can of worms and I want to move on. And I want to try and do some other stuff. So, Daxod, saying loving the adventuring music. Appreciate it. And with the Prime sub, well, I appreciate that even more. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying the content so much as to drop the Prime sub off. If I may ask, you said you had a friend who does like code stuff. Do you do cool code projects? Are you a developer as well? Let's generate some trees in this here space. Let's go back to our TSV. Let's grab the data for this room. I'm going to reopen it in here, G7. Drop that, and we're going to make sure that it's identical. So we're going to just re-add everything here. Daxode. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate the pronunciation. Let me know if I'm still doing it wrong. Daxode. Let's add some stuff. We can do some... On this side of the map, we're not going to want any trees because they'll cover the character. So we'll just do some stones sporadically around here, and then add some bushes like that. Then over here we can do CT, BT, center tree, back tree, back tree. We don't want these diagonally touching, so we'll do that. Switch to back tree, center tree, back tree, and back tree there. Okay. And then I will try again with this setup. I think what we found was we need to do same next to same so that we don't get any overlapping. So there, we'll just give this, again, we're not going to be pixel pushing today. I'm really trying to not be too like precious with everything. We're just going to try stuff and see what happens. Let's see if we can get maybe a tree here, but it might be blocking too much of the riverway. Stones, bushes, and some stones. Very cool. Yeah, I guess if you're new here, I've been on YouTube for like, oh god, like 15 years now. 2010 is when I started doing stuff, mostly Minecraft background, or Minecraft stuff into like some Fallout, Oblivion type things, eventually some Skyrim, and then kind of fell off for a number of years, mostly because I work as a game developer myself. I've been doing that since around the same time, so I'm coming up on 15 years as a game dev as well. But the further I got into my career, the more time consuming it got, and just couldn't keep up with it as much. But in the last little while, as I've been working on this side project for the past 5 years, technically 2 different games, one game that I've shelved and then took the entire engine that I built, all of the animation stuff, all of the map building, all the tile, like the pixel art and everything. I took all of that and like kind of built that into the second game that me and my wife are now working towards something a bit smaller and more achievable, although I am continuing to bloat it. So much feature creep. But as I've been moving more into this kind of game dev, I've been kind of transitioning the channels more into this type of content, to the chagrin of some of the longtime viewers, but everyone's usually pretty nice. I just don't think, I think it's fair that some people are just not interested in the content, but always very supportive, which I think is a sign that I've cultivated a good community over the years. Okay, that should be good. I'm just going to clear this one that we had kind of temporarily placed down. And I think that should tell the story okay. You know what? I do want some more trees on this side, actually. I was talking and placing, and I think I want to try and get a couple more over here. So we're going to do some trees, center, back, and then we're just going to bring that over. And then just like that. And then I don't think I need this one here. We'll just do a tree there and see how that feels. All right, download that and regenerate. that's downloaded in the background, and we can now generate TSV. Props are updated. Let's see how that's feeling. It feels like it's been years of me slowly building tech over and over again, like just adding on to Unity to get it to do what I want it to do. Oh, I hit Control A at some point. Oops. This might take a second for Unity to figure out, but it's just like I've been using Unity for like 15 years, basically since even before actually I started as a game dev. I was using it as a student as well. So like it just feels like home, but there's just stuff where it's like I just want to build tools sometimes. I don't know if anyone else gets that, but like I feel like I get more excited about building tools than I do about building games sometimes. And just like there's something about that that's, I don't know, hard to shake. But we've definitely gotten to the point where like I can get animations in, we can generate maps with all the props fairly easily. We can kind of move between rooms. We have save loading, we have UI management. All of that stuff is all built. Do you have a downloaded TSV and then have a tool build the terrain from there? Yes. Originally, I had built the TSV editor to generate 2D stuff using Unity's tile maps when the game was 2D, but eventually I realized I just wanted the control of 3D. But this is a legacy tool. This is like one of the first things I built. But so essentially my generate level data from World Geo is kind of going through a couple of steps, but essentially it's generating still Unity tiles in the background, and then it's generating those tiles based off of the geometry in the world. And I'm using the Pro Builder tool to generate a series of cubes essentially, and then I raycast this environment to generate this, and then this gets used to create some backend data. It's a nightmare, but it works really well for what I need it to do, which is essentially just very quickly generate stuff. So if I wanted to, I could just come in here and add more cubes to the environment and then run the raycast part of this tool, and it would just update the map. But I think a couple months ago I realized like I just wanted more like quicker like TSV setup, so I made the TSV another layer onto this tool where it generates the geometry and then it goes through and does everything else. Unlockable Character says, I think the biggest issue with anything game dev is that as one progresses, they get so much better, so they get stuck in the loop of redoing the old stuff, which isn't as good as the new stuff. I think that's really the thing I'm always struggling with, is like, like I was saying earlier on the stream, is that this section of the world, this will be my third time redoing it. But I think we're getting closer to being like, okay, this is the template for the game, now we just need to fill in the content. And I feel like I'm out of time too, because Drixie is doing a great job being my producer. As like, she's just like, I want to make something, I want to put something on Steam, and I'm like, yeah, but what if we made more tools? And she's like, no, we're done, you got to figure it out, we're putting out a game. And I'm like, okay. So that has been very helpful too, just having my wife be like that push as she kind of does all this art. I don't know if I've mentioned that in the last few minutes, but Drixie does all of the art for this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm proud of the level generation stuff, but it definitely gets the job done. Because essentially behind the scenes, the way that the tile mapping stuff is done is essentially I just have essentially just a scriptable object that has all 154 tiles, and then it has a bunch of information about like what addressable props are in which spots, as well as like information on whether or not the tiles are walkable, the spawn directions. Like there's just a bunch of data all baked into here, but that's all getting exported from a couple of steps. First, I lay out the geo, I place all the props, and then that gets parsed into, I guess only the floor and the water gets parsed into the old part of my 2D system, and then this gets evaluated to create the actual data that goes into the scriptable object. The props kind of get parsed directly into the scriptable object. They're kind of on their own layer. Okay, so I'm happy with this. This is fairly well placed. Let's take a look back at Balsamic. So I think the version we're going to end up going with is this version. So when you first start a run, you will start in the first room, you'll head up, you'll get your sword, you'll fight the first slime, then you're going to come to this section of the world where this adventurer is trapped on the other side of the river. Then you're going to head down, and then you're going to go to the right and fight some enemies along the way, and eventually you'll make your way up to this crossroads, and if you head south, you'll be on the opposite side of the river. But by the time you get all the way around, the adventurer will be dead, and, well, they'll be implied to be dead with a blood pool decal on the ground, and the idea is that they have been washed into the river. And then in place of the boar in the adventurer, there will be a mace on the ground. When you pick up that mace, you'll gain the bash ability, and then you can explore a little further, but you'll run out of time and the demon lord will resurrect. You'll go back to the goddess realm and you'll start a new run. And then when you start that new run, you'll be able to go to this first room. You won't have to pick up the sword because you already have it. You'll fight the slime. You'll move into this room, which is what we're currently working on. And then you'll be able to interact to knock this tree trunk over to make a bridge. And you'll only be able to do that because of the mace you retrieved in the first run from essentially the dead body. But because of the time loop nature, now you have that mace and you can kind of be able to save this adventurer as well as create a shortcut, so you don't have to go all the way around anymore. You can now go directly up here to this crossroads, or you can go north, or you can go to the east, and there'll be some other adventurers as part of that group that you'll be able to save. Okay. Let's see how this is feeling. Let's go start from the beginning, and let's do a quick run from the start, from the top. Do I want to turn on regular audio? I guess we could turn on game audio for a bit. Oh, we still have the debug tools turned on to set all of our flags. Flag, main flag override, first run. Let's disable this so that we can actually do a full run through. Okay, new game. Infinite retries to defeat the Demon Lord. Worked. Okay. Okay. I think I want to redo some of this dialogue, but I think it's still mostly working. I want to redo that dialogue a bit too. Originally we were thinking Hiro would be more of the generic kind of like, almost like Ryuji blonde-haired like isekai character, but I feel like I want to change that narrative a bit more as I've kind of figured out more of what the whole plot looks like, especially more of the end game. I've started to solidify a little bit more. I think this sequence I'm gonna also rename at some point to like Chapter 0. It's kind of almost like a prologue before we actually get into the real sandbox of that forest area we're working on. This is all still working. Does this all still trigger correctly? Oh, I gotta fix that bug where the fog is only appearing on the edges and doesn't fill in when you first enter a room. I need to get rid of that floating screen too, because now we give you the slash ability in the forest. We don't want to have that choice anymore, I don't think. I kind of figured it out, Daxode. No, not really, to be honest. I mean, the only thing that like I really need that I don't have on 2022 is just the fact that like layering doesn't work the way I want for shaders. It's really complicated to get into, but like I know that 6000 fixes that. I just haven't bothered upgrading, mostly because that's the only thing I really need. I guess to better explain what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you do, okay, so when I have a shader for my cameras are built up around a main camera, the zoom camera is more of a prototype thing, and then I have like some UI cameras and stuff. And I have a couple layered cameras, but most importantly, I want to have a camera that only renders the background, and then I want to apply a UI processing to that, but then I want everything else, every other camera placed in front of it to, I want every other camera placed behind that camera to not have that UI processing placed on it. Now, you know what? I can't explain it. It's too hard right now. I'd have to go into too much detail. But I spent like 2 weekends trying to solve it, and in the end I wrote like some really, really awful processing shader code to work around it. But I know that 6000 fixes this issue where when you apply a post-processing effect to a camera, it only applies to that camera. Whereas in 2022, the easiest way to put it is that if you have 2 cameras and the first camera renders and then you have a second camera and you apply a post-processing effect, it will affect the first camera even though you're not applying it to that one that's behind it. It's almost like when it renders the first camera, it like stacks it in a way that like you can't control, essentially. Okay, so here we've got first combat. We can slash the enemy, then we can defend, parry the attack, and then attack again. And then we get into an offset here. Oh, do we not get into an offset? Oh, can we parry forever? Oh, I might want to tweak some of these countdown timer numbers. Yeah, we can infinitely parry. Okay, we gotta tweak some stuff, but that's fine. So we finished killing that slime. Whoa, what happened here? I have never seen that. Whoa, what did I do? That's a new one. Okay, so the enemy isn't dying correctly. That's fun. Yeah, that's mostly just working. I guess the only thing that's wrong that I saw from that full playthrough. Also, that's a full playthrough. It's both not a lot and also a lot if you know game dev. Let's switch back to this one. Question I have to ask, what's stopping you from upgrading? Is there anything in your project that breaks on the upgrade or something similar or something else? No, honestly, it's just I haven't gone around to upgrading to 6000. I know it's a pretty major update. I know there's some pretty important upgrades with like the performance tools and stuff. That's the thing that I'm like not related, but I would like to see how bad my performance is in terms of the grading of some of those pieces of new software. But it's primarily just that I don't want to. I guess I'm gun shy because I'm used to, like, when you used to upgrade in like 2010, 2015 era, it would like break everything. But to be fair, every time I've upgraded from like 2000, 2021 to 2022, like all of those upgrades were basically seamless and there was no problems. But I do know that 6,000 is a fairly large step, and I just haven't sat down because I have so much other content generation and tools that I want to set up myself that, like, I don't really want to spend time figuring out the upgrade path when this is working perfectly fine, other than that one problem with the screens. But yeah. It's funny, Daxode, that's the thing that everyone comes in and says. It says they love the terrain popping in and out. And I think that is something that I'm like over the moon happy with overall. Oh, did I just lose my autosave? But it feels like it's not that crazy of a setup. It's just like a series of tiles that I've done a little bit of animation magic to set up. But like for the most part, it is just some run-of-the-mill like individual tile movements. I think my clock is remaining closed. I did not trigger the intro cutscene on entering the world for the first time. I think as we switched over to this V3 version of the forest, I'm gonna need to do that. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say Unity is just like, it's comfy, it's home, and like, the more that I build up my, oh, I want to mute this now, so that we don't have two audios playing, but the more that I like build up my own tools on top of it, the less I need stuff from Unity, if that makes sense. Like, I've had conversations at like Unity dev like conferences and stuff throughout the years where I've been asked like, what does Unity need? And I'm like, default save system, you know, better UI systems, you know, better QA testing tools. Like, you know, there's certain things that games just have, and like if you could provide that, like inventory management systems. And I've seen stuff like game foundations and things that like those packages try and deliver on those, but I'm at a point now after the past 5 years where I've basically built all of those basic things, so there isn't a lot that I need to go digging for in Unity's like base setup, if that makes any sense. Yeah, my clock didn't open. So, okay, let's take a look at our cutscene management system. Forest TO1. Exit room. Clock tutorial. This one's a trigger. So this cutscene triggers on this trigger name, and this trigger name happens on intro. So if you enter this scene, this cutscene will happen. So I need to copy this, and we're going to put this down in our new location here, and we're going to make a new folder called F8, which is our starting room. And we're going to put this in here, and we're going to change this to IT Woods room F8 intro. Okay, and now this should trigger when we start a new run. Do I need to do anything with this stuff? Yes, this wants to now be Woods F8, I think. Let's check on what this one generated. It did Woods G7. Okay, so I guess that's the more modern naming convention. This is an older one that I built manually before I built my wizard. So F8. Okay, that's the cutscene ID, and that'll point to this addressable object. Cool. That should be enough now. Let's see how that works. What's going on over here? S-Funk in chat, first time chatter. Your game has some great visuals. Also, hello. Hello to you. Thank you. Also missed the previous comments from Daxode, And yeah, it's probably a small thing, but the popping really does add a lot. Yeah, it's really based off of like a lot of different things in my head, but like the thing people often go to is like, oh, it feels like Bastion. And if you look at Bastion, Bastion has more of like very set piece movements in a lot of ways. I do struggle to think of something that's similar. The original, like one of the original ideas came from that I was building just set rooms, like almost like Zelda or the name's escaping me. Why can't I? The super popular indie game where you're like the little baby running around, with that, like, why? Oh my god, why can I not think of the name of the game? Someone save me. Okay, well, regardless, I was thinking of having like set room pieces like this, but I played Etrian Odyssey, and Etrian Odyssey with like the dungeon crawl experience was like, wait, what if I took my map, because everything's already tiles anyways, and I just made it so each of those tiles could just animate in, and then I went from there. If I... Yeah, it still didn't trigger the cutscene. I feel like I haven't had a captive audience in a while. Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate the dev conversations. This has been really fun. I wanted to kind of dive deeper because I feel like I haven't had a captive audience to be like, look at my cool toys I've built. But I also do want to make progress. What a hard choice. So we come into here. Yeah, we're not triggering the intro cutscene still. So why did Woods Room... Oh, duh. This is a thing I ran into earlier too. I need to parse my cutscene, so I need to convert all of these scriptable objects into JSON files. That's the problem. That's the problem. First time chatter... Treasure Rat? Welcome in, welcome in. I want to save, I think, a permanent version of this. There we go. And now it's opening the clock. Okay, so the tutorialization of the clock is done because we've moved the intro cutscene over. This sword has already been picked up in this playthrough, but is still showing up here. Let's take a look at how I had that set up in W01. What was I doing to make it so this sword wouldn't reappear every time? Oh, actually, before I do that, I keep losing track. Thanks for stopping in. I really do appreciate it. I already said that a moment ago, but I hope you have a good evening. I am starting right now, planning on starting streams on Sunday from 2 to 4 PST and from 6 to 8 PST, which is going to be not a great hour for you, sadly. But I want to try and be more consistent with the streaming schedule, and I think I can make Sunday work. There's a possibility of other streams. You can check out the Discord if you want to see messages on that, but at this time the only consistent streaming is Sunday, and I think this is only week 2 of that set schedule, but hopefully I can maintain it moving forward. I feel like work is getting into a position where we're kind of in the bug cycle of like dev periods, and I feel like I have some extra brain power to put towards this, opposed to like finishing a day of doing game dev and then being drained, if that makes any sense. So I'm hoping for at least the next foreseeable future I can be working on Sundays or doing streams on Sundays. Unsighted, Rogue Heroes, and Star Tropics says unlockable characters. Those are games that come to mind for the Link to the Past style dungeons. I think like there's a number of them, like Moonlighters as well. Moonlighters is one that comes to my mind, but like none of them really do the kind of like tile like popping in effect that I'm doing. That was more what I was trying to refer to, but I probably didn't say it properly. Was the idea of the tile motion was the thing that I feel like is not done a whole lot. Let's see. These are all from a while back. I think I'm going to save over this one. Oh, right. I have to actually hit the A button, not enter. Forgot what UI I was looking at for a second. Okay, now that I've made a permanent save, now I'm going to switch scenes. I'm going to go look at Woods. No, Forest W01. Let's look at the old scene. How was I making the sword disappear here? If I hit... No, okay, that's... Show metadata? The sword has an entity ID, which I already have set up, but what's causing it to disappear permanently? Interesting. I don't think I was. Was I not setting this up correctly? Well, I'm glad it works out, Daxode. Have a good evening. And hope to see you around. Yeah, and unlockable characters. Yeah. So, same page then. Just, I think I just didn't articulate myself well. Yeah, maybe I didn't have this saving correctly. I thought I had done work to make it so that we actually had flags that determined whether or not a prop would appear. But I'm not seeing any setup for that. I definitely know we did it for the chests. The chests I set up the remove on interact, I think. Oh, are those also not doing it? I guess I don't have an example, but we definitely did it on stream a while ago. Daxode says, wait, do you by chance have a type called Entity ID? I do. I use Entity ID a lot. It's kind of like a central pillar of the entire game. We didn't get into it, really. Maybe it's another time, but like my whole game is built off of the idea of an entity management system, not unlike Valve and their... I don't know, I looked at source code eons ago when I was like in school, in like the, I think 2009 or something. And like, for whatever reason, that idea stuck with me. And so when I first started on this project, I built an entity management system, which is pretty simplistic. You can just give objects entity IDs or entity components and they get registered to a singleton. But it allows my sequences to work. Essentially, oh God. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too big or too much. We can talk about it another time, I'm sure. But at its core, my entire game operates primarily off of this sequence class, which invokes a series of sequence steps through coroutines and through enumeration that allow me to essentially do something similar to what the timeline does, but fully controlled by me. It's kind of insane in some regards. But in order for this to work, I need to be able to do stuff like a delay sequence step, or like a reveal tile sequence step is a better example, actually. And that needs to be able to find an object by entity ID rather than by reference. Asking as that's a new name for instance ID, so there'll be a name conflict in 6.2 and above. Rip me. That'll be a pretty major overhaul, because I think entity ID... you know what? I think technically it's M_entity ID. I don't know if that'll give me enough leeway for it to not conflict, but mine is M_entity ID. So, I don't know. Technically, I think the M_ gets like removed at the editor level. But yeah, here's like a UI anchoring sequence step, and it uses like entity management to, or entities to like get entities, and then based off of the entities, it'll try and anchor UI components to parts of the screen, essentially. So like entity management is a pretty core part of my sequence, but essentially every sequence just has an evoke, and I can write whatever I want in this, and it will then be queuable inside of my sequences. Again, it's like timeline, but less based off time and more about discrete chunks of information. That's like also how the actual cutscenes are running. Cutscenes are really just sequences. So like we were showing earlier, this cutscene for G7 for the trapped adventurer. Like this here is saying basically looking up the tiles via entity IDs based off of their IDs. And then I was doing a adjust player position step, and this was grabbing the unit entity ID player and moving them to this tile position. So this stuff all works independent of references. It doesn't have to have references to objects. I'm probably preaching to the choir a little bit, my bad. But I like explaining how my stuff works. World Traveler 6 says, I'm sorry for asking this while streaming, but would you maybe know anything about scriptable objects in Unity and how to solve it not showing up on the build? Me and my friend are on a deadline and most people who know aren't available right now. If not, that's fine. Just shooting my shot. Appreciate it. Not showing up in the build is maybe the part that I don't fully understand. So sadly, no. Like when I make builds, my objects just appear. But I'm also using a lot of addressable stuff, so it's not super straightforward the way I'm doing it. But I've never had problems with like just having a scriptable object not show up. Okay, I wish I could be more help, but I don't think I can. Sorry. I've run into a lot of problems over the years, but scriptable objects not showing up in builds, I don't think is one of them. Appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in. And good luck with your deadline. Oh, I'm getting tired of this one. Let's switch up to this background music. Yeah, so I'm not seeing how to disable this or why this would be disabled on entering and exiting the scene, but I definitely know that I did that work. And it's possible I just didn't... You know what? I think we can just check. How would I have done this? I know I did it on stream a few months ago, so I think I could go back and check all of that and see what I was doing. But if I pick this up, it turns off, which we already have done in the new scene. That is going to be the new space that does this. We leave, and then if we come back, is it returned? It is not returned. So something is turning that sword off permanently. But I'm not seeing anything attached to the metadata for the prop, for the interactable tile. And I'm not seeing anything inside of... Oh, required flag. Is that what's doing it? Interesting. Yeah, it's being handled inside of here. So required flag not started, sword pickup. Okay, okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. Might be fine with the rename then. But yeah, our team is making game objects also valid entities. I don't know if you... See, I feel like it sounds like, Daxode, that I'm just one step ahead. Just one step ahead. All right. I'm not going to get that cocky. But I do think that I agree with that decision. It just makes it easier. But I know the dots and the ECS stuff, I've had it explained to me back in like, I don't know, like 2019, and it's just not what I'm trying to do. I think it could work with some of this tile stuff pretty nicely, but I'm already kind of compact with just textures and stuff. It's not been too bad. I do think I need to do an optimization pass. That's a different conversation, but I feel like I just don't want to go down the rabbit hole of dots and ECS. I have colleagues who are very fond of it and do a lot of fun things with it. It's just a little too much for me. I'm gonna stick to my old man ways of just like having my objects and just putting components on them and knowing that they just exist as a single thing. I'm not going to say any more than that because I'm going to reveal how little I know about dots and ECS if I say any more. Let's go back to scene, dungeons, woods, F8. No, F7. Oh, my brain. It's going to take me a while to get used to this new naming structure, but I think it will be better in the long run. Okay. So if we come into here, can I just put flag ID here? I want to put it here and set it to not started. Not there. That's the wrong spot. No, it gets wiped. Okay, and that's because I set up this remove prop interact secondary. I made this later, and this is resetting stuff it shouldn't. So this is doing... I don't think I want to reset this. Okay. That might be a bug. I'm gonna maybe put a comment for when I go to check in. Validate on check-in. Validate this isn't breaking the remove prop on interact logic. But this is the reversible, so I think it's fine. It's just not clearing on unticking. It's possible I should just be using the remove prop on interact in this particular situation as well. But I want to set it up with my own custom values. Okay, so this is going to say if this cutscene is not started, then it will appear. So if we pick this up, it disappears, and then if we leave this scene and come back, it should no longer be spawning. Okay. Yeah, it's gone. Cool. Okay, so that's the piece I was missing. I don't need those. Okay. Where are we at? I feel like I'm taking forever on this, but there's also so much to relearn because I just haven't touched any of this code in forever. Excuses. So we start here, we come up, we get the sword, we fight the slime, we have a little cutscene where the adventurer's asking for help. I want to do the around the loop. Let's get the rest of the rooms in place. So we've got a F7, select. Let's go to G7. So from here, we're going to copy this and we're going to name this one G8, and that'll be the next room down. So we're going to open that one up. We're going to clear all our props, which I'd like to bake into the generate from TSV at some point. And then using this as a base, we're going to start by coming down from this spot. Clear these, clear these, clear these. Oh, it's a novel. What do we got going on here, Daxode? Well, entities is twofold. There's the optimization side, sure, but it's not what ECS is only about. It's also about just writing systematic things. Hey, I want this with all this kind of thing. But ultimately, what our team wants is to give easier choices to pick. Effectively, if every game object is also an entity, you can pick at one point, and if you notice, hey, I now need this concept in my game, then it's easier to make the system from the ECS than you can just do that. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. It makes me realize that maybe I might be writing it off too soon as like a system for games with a lot of bullets or something, right? Like it's like I write it off a little bit too much as like, oh, it's not what I'm doing because I'm doing like old man Unity work. But that's probably unfair. But I also don't feel like I have the energy to go learn the new thing. I've got a bunch of other things I'm just trying to get done. If that makes any sense. It's just like, it's too much to manage. I can barely get in a stream and get much work done. Like, I feel like I've streamed for 4 hours today and I've made 4 rooms in a game that I think I eventually want like hundreds in. And most of these rooms are really just bare bones, just props. I don't know, it just feels like there's not enough time. Let's see. We're gonna name this G8. Save. Come in here. G8. We're gonna generate the raycast. That's done. Perfect. We don't need these here for this level, so we're gonna turn those off. We're gonna turn off the NPC. For this one here, we're gonna drag the west tiles over. And these tiles are going to transition to G7. So we're going to go to the G7 map. And then we're turning off south and east and turning on north. Dragging these over to be over top of the tiles. And then this will go to... 9 unlockable characters. I will hydrate one more time for free. Alright. And now, if we were in... Let's go back over here. We were in G8. We're going to go to H8 next. Cool. And then we'll copy that and paste that in here. Perfect. And then I assume this will probably want to have a slime in it. We'll put a slime here. Oh, this is actually going to be a boar. We're going to swap that back to a slime. And we'll have this walk between 5:12 and 6:15. It's a classic thought people have, which is fair. Just want to clarify that ECS is also about the simplicity of writing stuff. After all, what is a game object but a set of components with a behavior, aka entities with components working as a system? That's fair. And I do think that, like... Oh, what did we... Oh, we need to set the default spawn location. Oh, also these are not perfectly aligned. They need to be over one more. Yeah, but I think the thing I'm also like coming to after like 5 years of dev is that like I think I've got the things I need to make a video game. I think there will always be another tool to... That's not what I meant to do. I meant to click on this one. There'll always be another tool to build, but like I'm at a point now where I just need to build it. Wish I was a game dev, but my tiny brain doesn't know anything. That seems unfair, Treasure Rat. I mean, yeah. I felt like it was kind of an unattainable goal, but I also like started doing it like in a very different time. I don't know how it looks as like a person trying to get into the industry nowadays. I know it's a lot tougher, but having a lot of experience, it makes me like it, I don't know. It was definitely different when I started back in 2010. It was just a different era. I felt like I had a lot of people support me though, for sure. Why is this not loading? I mean, yeah, really. Because when I first started, I was actually, I don't think I've ever talked about this too much, but I was in originally a different career. But I, at some point, realized that, like, that schooling wasn't going to work for me. And then I just remember starting to learn code stuff in, like, probably 2008. And, like, just, like, not knowing how to do stuff. And the internet was nowhere near as good as it is now. And I ended up finding some old tutorial website on how to do, like, C-based coding in DOS, and ended up downloading like a DOS editor for an IED. It was nonsense. It wasn't until I actually got to school and started doing code stuff a couple years later that I realized what I was doing was insane. But I did learn the basics of like variables and if statements just through that. But some of that also came from like using RPG Maker growing up and stuff too. There's some like level of knowledge there that's easily transferable. But it's just hard to kind of get that base understanding. Oh, I didn't generate the floor texture. That's what we're failing on. If I read the error, it explains what's going on. We're also going to overwrite this texture, and then we're going to regenerate the floor. Oh, man, I didn't even talk about the floor. So, Daxode, I thought you were going to leave, but you're still here, so I'm going to explain this. This floor, it's not... Well, let's find one that looks better. If I go into Pt.2 and load this map, this one Drixie's actually done a pass on this floor, but I want my world to be isometric, but I also want it to be pixel perfect, and Unity does not want it to be pixel perfect. It really doesn't. But the way that I managed to get that to work is through an insane amount of trial and error, where I've set up an orthographic camera and I've done a lot of work to find out the exact pixels that it wants to rasterize from this tile. So the camera angle and the camera position and the tile position and the screen space position, there's a whole bunch of work that I've done, but I've made it so that every single one of these pixels that look like they're in diagonal lines redraw out perfectly to line up exactly where I want them on the screen. This would probably be the thing that took me the most amount of time, even beyond tools and everything else. The amount of eons that I've spent trying to get this to render exactly perfectly here is insane. And the reason that I'm doing some of this in such a crazy way where like I have them all laid out on the floor is because if we actually look at Pt.2's floor texture that Drixie made, the actual texture itself is this one, which is exactly what you see. But I wrote a program, a editor that actually converts it into this, which is the exact same pixel information but flattened. And then by placing it back into the world at this level, it returns via the camera rasterization to what Drixie originally drew in the first image. So this is identical in every spot on every pixel that the camera chooses to grab, but it's done manually. This is not done with shaders. This is done with camera position, orthographic sizing to be the exact right values. And a lot of those were trial and error, with me having like a debug button to change the orthographic size of the camera by 0.00001 and tapping that very slowly until the pixels all aligned. It took years to get right. but it works and it looks good. The craziest thing, eventually what I found was I needed a, beyond just getting the camera perfect, there was also a level of eventual need for alignment systems as things moved, because anything that was moving off pixel would also break. So I had to write a alignment system. So my character is actually two different pieces. It's the player movement, which we move the player movement, and then we have some sort of tile offset that is like offset from what we actually want, where we want the player to be within the tile. But the player movement is moving from center of tile to center of tile, essentially. But when we do that, we actually have another component, which is the player sprites, that is aligning to the destination where we want it to go. So this destination object is what actually moves in the world, but this object aligns to that destination, but at a pixel alignment. And the way this thing operates is by rounding each of the pixel positions to the nearest multiple of a set value. And I had to figure out these values by hand. But with my orthographic size, with my camera placement, these values will align everything pixel perfect. On the XY plane, it's a somewhat reasonable number. The Y value, I think, is a rounding. I think that this could be more precise, but I've done a lot of math, and I made an object that was like 100 tall, and I was able to still validate that this number held. So this may actually be an accurate pixels, but the way you could think about this is how high one pixel up is in 3D space, and this is how far left and right a pixel is in the XZ plane, essentially. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. But it works. But it works. I've had some render, like, shader people tell me that this may not rasterize on all computers the same way, and that this may just break because it's too hard-coded, but so far it seems to be fine. Anyways, cool stuff. Sorry. I just want to talk about the cool stuff I work on. Let's regenerate the scene menu for the new one we've just made. Oh, I started with the pixel perfect camera, but the pixel perfect camera doesn't actually render things like, I can't tell you. It's been like 3 years since I've been on the pixel, like probably closer to 5. It's probably near the beginning that I originally started doing stuff with the pixel perfect camera, but it just doesn't do what it says it does. It's been too long for me to articulate exactly what I mean by that. But essentially, it just doesn't line things up. It will snap things to a set pixel, but it won't line things. Yeah, I can't articulate it. It's been too long since I've had to work through the problems. But I know that I went through them, and it didn't do what I needed. But I couldn't explain to you why. But even like this character, like the player container. The other crazy thing is that like I have to scale it to like 2.75 to 2.8 on a rotation of 30 by -45. I don't know why, but I know that gets me exactly pixel perfect when it's billboarded to face the camera. Like it needs to be skewed, and it doesn't matter how big the texture is. It doesn't matter if it's a 300 by 300 object. It just needs these values, and everything does. If I had to guess, I would say that I did something at a fundamental level wrong, and then everything else beyond that has been like me magic numbering, whereas if I had understood the math and the rendering correctly, it probably could have been solved in a much more clean and less magic numbery way. But I don't know, it's the journey I went on. The biggest thing I think is also that like I've had people tell me like it's fine, you can just leave it as anti-aliased or let the game kind of decide where it wants to be. But the biggest thing that I really struggled with was I wanted Trixie to be able to create a piece of art, and that piece of art to look exactly how she drew it in game to the pixel, and that is the thing that I feel like was requiring some of this craziness. Anyways, I'm done with that rant. Okay, moving on. So we're going to continue making scenes. So we've made this one. There'll be a small fight. You can avoid it if you want, and then we can move forward into the next room. Yeah. It's just like the amount of time that I spent looking at oh god, the test texture. Oh, I don't even have it anymore. Really? I wish I had streamed more of the actual like process of figuring out the 2D part of it. But I had a texture that was a 32 by 32 texture where every single pixel was a different color, or at least gridded in a way that was a different color. It was very trippy because when things weren't pixel aligned perfectly and the camera was moving, you would get like a strobe effect. And the ideal way was just continuing to tweak and tune things until that strobe effect disappeared. I mean, it's an easy goal. Okay, so let's name this one H8. This will be the next room over. If you ever want a place to just chat, Daxode, this would be a good spot. Because I didn't even get into the ability system or the sequences. I could tell you some crazy stuff I've done with Unity. I could tell you some crazy stuff. I'm not saying it's good, but anyways, go to bed. Thanks for stopping by. Also, where am I at on time? Ooh, we are over by 36 minutes. I think I'm going to go for another 20, though. We're just going to make it an even 3-hour stream. I feel like I am running on a high, and we are making progress. So I think it'll be okay. It's gonna be fine. Let's grab this room. Okay, so let's make another one. We're going to start on this side, and we're going to want to go north. I think I want this one to open up a little bit more. It doesn't need to be a straight shot to the other side. I think we can just do like this and cut that. But maybe do we want to have maybe a dead end path in here? We don't really have a lot of good items for pickup, but that would be the primary thing we'd want to have the player potentially go find. Yeah, because we could do something like lead out this way into a dead end, but for what reason? It's really just taking time off the player's run, making it less likely that they'll be able to get where I want in their first attempt. Yeah, maybe I just test the game. We'll leave it open that if we want to create something here, we can. But let's try testing the game in kind of more of a simple path. Throw in a couple of stones. And then maybe we'll just put an enemy in here. Yeah, let's do that. Download the TSV. This becomes H8. Mix up the background music. Okay. And then this becomes H8, generate from TSV. There we go. We're going to disable the north exit and just turn on the south exit. And we're going to drag these up here. Be nice if my generate could actually like place these tiles for me, but I feel like at some point that level of tooling is just going to be a pain. It's just easier to just be like, you know what, I can add the 3 strings opposed to like trying to write all the crazy code. Do I want this to exit in the same spot? Yeah, I guess it's fine. It just, it feels weird that we entered and exited from the same spot on the tiles, but I think it's okay. This will be H7. Okay, save that, overwrite work in progress, pull this up, hit woods, run processor, come into scene checker, set this to south entrance as our initial spawn when we load this map. We'll run it, make sure it loads, make sure we can step backwards and then step forward, and then we're going to move on to H7. We're just going to keep building maps. We're just putting in the content, and then we'll figure out what it feels like to play through them piece by piece. Okay, we're going to come back here, walk out here, and then walk back in. I don't like how hidden that exit is in that situation. I tried to make it so that the trees weren't right next to that spot, but I don't think I did a perfect job. Yeah, is it? I think this one's just a little too close. This should be probably something else. It's gonna be faster just to edit it here, so I'm gonna change it to, it's the back one that's a problem. We can just change this to bush, and then I'll re-download and regenerate. Download, TSV, place, and then regenerate from TSV. Hopefully that's enough so that you can see the route. We might have to pull back 4-9 as well, because it's on the same diagonal, like isometrically. Yeah, I don't think that's working. Okay, we'll change that one as well. I'm just gonna do this here. It's gonna be faster than editing it. We'll change this one to a bush. Just faster than downloading from Google Sheets. Is that enough for us to be able to see the path? Still no, to be honest with you. Save, try again. Still not liking that. It's crazy how far back I need to pull some of these. So I think it's best to just do both of them here and then just see what that does. I'm gonna have to remove most of these trees at this point. Okay, give that a shot. This is a bit, again, I'm trying not to be so particular and pixel pushy, but I also do want to try and fix stuff like this where it's just not quite showing everything correctly. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so that's the next, that map is good. We're going to call that fine. We will turn on an enemy spawn. I don't know if this is the right spot for it, but we're just going to put an enemy in here, maybe on 512. and we'll have it pathing to 515, and then back to 511. Okay, we're gonna call that good. And now we're gonna select this one, we're gonna copy it, we're gonna paste, and we're gonna call this H7. We're gonna double click to open it, and then we're gonna make another room. So in here, we're gonna go from this spot to here. Now, let's double check. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce Otenic? Otenic? That's probably wrong. The game looks really cool, but how are you building maps like that? It's complicated. I've been working on this project for... Oh, thanks for the follow also. I've been working on this project for... Well, I've been working on my tools for 5 years. I was working on a game... started working on a game 5 years ago, and then I started working on this one 2 years ago when I shelved the first one, but took all of the tech, a lot of the map generation stuff, and combat and a lot of different things, and kind of made this next game. But the actual like generation of the map is like layered over multiple projects, so it's kind of hard to explain. But the short version is that I'm essentially taking a TSV file, and from that TSV file that says like a bunch of stuff, for like, this is a floor tile, this is going to have some scrubs, some bushes, some trees. It's taking that data and then generating these green geometry blocks for the floor, and then anywhere that I have like a grass tile, it's like generating some props, or if it's a stone tile, it's generating some stone tiles. And I just have a bit of logic that says which props to place. The prop editing system is mine. So I've built this whole prop editing like editor. Most of this was done last December when I took a month off work to just like focus on this. So there's several streams of me building up this system from back then. They're very long and very convoluted because I'm figuring it out as I'm streaming. But yeah, that's the map editor, is the props. As for the actual geometry, again, multiple layers of code being built on top of each other. Essentially, I wrote at some point a raycaster that raycasts down from like a certain corner of the map and tries to see if there's any geometry, and if it finds a collider, it says, oh, this is a floor tile. But if it finds geometry at a certain height, it says, oh, this is a wall. Or if it's low, it says, oh, this is water. And then it takes that and it puts into Unity's tile map system. Again, because I used to build, this game used to be using Unity's tile map, so I used to have a system for generating like Unity tile map, because that's what the game was originally built on. But then from this tile map, I convert all of that information into a scriptable object that at runtime I use to load up the board, essentially the actual world that you walk around on. Yeah, correct. Really complicated, but that's so cool. Yeah, no, it's just tools on tools. Like, I built it to do one thing. And then I took that and then grafted something else on top of it, and then another thing, and then another thing, until eventually it's what you see now. But the short version is I'm just making it so that I can write some data and it exports to this. And it's been years of slow iteration to get it to the point where it's this fast. I like making tools is maybe the best way to put it. Okay, so for this map, where are we at in my diagram? So first room, we get the sword, we fight the slime, we find the blocked adventurer, we've gone down, we've crossed over into H8, and we're working on H7, which I said I wanted to have a 2 slime fight. Okay, how do I build? Same here, sort of, but not even near that level. What do you got, Oko? What are you building? You building your own project? I'll also say I've worked in game dev for like 15 years, and I've been working on this side project just in my own time as a hobby for the past 5. 5 years sounds like a lot, but it's really kind of fitting in time in between like real work, and sometimes real work drains you. It's hard to do game dev for 8 hours and then clock out and then want to work on it some more. But sometimes I get super hyper fixated and I get a ton done, and then sometimes it's months of not a lot getting done. Okay, so I just started game dev 5 months ago, but I make a lot of websites in Python, Vim extensions. Oh, that's cool. That's outside of my wheelhouse. I once had to do like some HTML for a tool for like something I was working on as a like real job, and that was like outside of my wheelhouse, but it was enough built up that like I was able to just kind of like look at other examples within the dev experience or the dev space and like kind of copy and paste my way to victory, but definitely not something that I'm super familiar with. But yeah, I once had to do website HTML for a tool that I was working on, so I had to figure some of it out. But most of my game dev time has been working on Unity. Spent 15 odd years doing Unity stuff, a little bit longer. Okay, what are we trying to accomplish? So we want to go north. So we want to leave this area and go up. Do I want to come out on the left or right side of the screen? I think left side, because I think I want to have the river continue. Oh, right. The river exited in this map over here. So we want to add some water tiles. Let's go grab G7. Where were the water tiles here? They exited on this side. Can I grab just this part? No, I can't. Control Shift? No, okay. It's going to make me copy the whole thing. Let's just paste it in. It looks like the water was 11 and 12. So we have water on the previous map to the left of this one in our grid. So we're going to want to have the water come in this way. That helps with the understanding of what we're building, because we got to have this river flow. And I think I want the river to flow this way. Wait, come on. Flow this way. And then I think I want it to flow up. Flow up. There we go. Copy and paste. My goodness. So we probably want to cross here. And I think I want to exit this map on this side, because I was thinking I wanted to have a shortcut across the river coming from this direction. Technically, the shortcut will be within this map, but for easy visualization, we'll say it's between these two tiles. So I want the water to run up here. We're going to cross and then exit on the left side. And then we'll be able to head over here and then come down. Okay. So we're heading up. And I want to have 2 slimes that you fight. Maybe we keep this somewhat narrow still as we enter in and cross over, and then we have a open space with 2 slimes in it. Try something like this, perhaps? And then we can position a slime somewhere like here and a slime somewhere like here, and we can have them kind of like pathing in like maybe a circle, so that if you start engaging one, you'll end up having the other one like circle around and fight you. That could be neat. Sure, let's try this. So then we'll have some trees on this side. And then we'll alternate. So center tree, back tree, center tree. This is basically just layering the trees on different spots. So I have trees that can, each of my props can be either in the back of the tile, the middle of the tile, or the front of the tile, roughly. And so these different, like CT is a center aligned tree, and the BT is just a tree on the back layer, essentially. Let's try something like that. And then I think I might just copy the whole thing and paste it twice, so there's a little more depth. I don't think the player will ever be able to see this tile, but that's okay. And then on this side, we'll just add some bushes. like so. Fill in the corners, and then we'll replace some of these with some stones. Okay, this background music needs to change it up. Let's go to that one now. Starting to get too samey. And then the water will block us from being able to walk onto the edge here, so we don't need to add any bushes or anything. We could add some grass. Could be fun to switch this up with some grass that's walkable here. And then on this side, again, we'll need stones, bushes, more stones, etc., etc. And then over here we can fit some more trees in. Something like that should be okay. Okay. I keep saying all stream that I'm gonna not pixel push, and then here I am just like playing with grass tiles. It's not necessary. Okay, so let's say that's good. Let's export that to TSV. So I'm gonna show that now. So we'll do download TSV. We're gonna put that in this folder here. We're gonna put this on H7. So we're downloading that, and then we're gonna put that into our, oh, we do need, we're in the right map. Yep, we're gonna clear this and regenerate it just so that it's a fresh start. And then we're gonna change the file name that we're looking for to parse from to H7, and then we will parse that file and then generate based off of its information. Seems good. So then we've got this slime here. Let's center it a little bit, and we'll put it on 611, and maybe it'll have a more complicated path. Mostly we've just been walking back and forth, but maybe this one will go to 8-9. And then from 8-9, it'll walk over to maybe 6-5. And then from there, it'll walk up to 4-8. So up to here. So it's walking down and around, and then it'll come back to where it started, which will be 6-11. And then if we copy this one, and then just move it over to, say, here, then they should basically loop around each other. Cool. We're gonna regenerate the texture for the floor, just to make sure that that's been updated, and then we're gonna regenerate the floor texture. We're gonna generate the work in progress and then run the tool that lets us convert it to its final form. And then we should be able to run this. Oh, we still need to set up the spawns. Yeah, I'm missing a step. Getting faster, but also not hitting everything. Okay, so west is up here. This is going to be east. This is going to be H8 that we're going down to. Copy that, paste that here. Hey, Oko with the hydration, appreciate it. I definitely need to continue to drink water. Oh wow, we've been live for 3 hours. We really should call it at some point, but I'm still feeling somewhat strong. So this is gonna go up here, and we're gonna do... Oko, you said you did game dev. What engine do you work in? Unity? You work in Godot, Unreal? What are you playing around with? What are you experimenting and learning? Maybe that's presumptuous to say, but I assume 5 months you're still figuring it out. Ah, yeah, Unity. Okay. Woods. No, that's not what I'm doing. What am I doing here? This, I'm changing this to H6, which doesn't exist yet, but it will, and that will be going there. What are you trying to build in Unity? Are you just exploring to see what the tool has? Or is there a specific project that you're trying to accomplish? Let's see how this goes. All right. Loading. Oh, I'm still missing one more step. So we set up the tiles, but we actually need to tell the global scene checker which spawn point we should start on if we're loading this map directly instead of playing through the whole game. Yeah, knowing C# definitely makes Unity a lot easier to jump into. Exploring map movement, movement map build. Ooh, interesting. That's one of the slimes. There's the other one. Okay. We won't really get to see the pathing because on first reveal of the room, we're only getting to see... because if we were coming into this room after already being here, they would start revealed and do their little pathing. But because we're coming in and revealing them, they'll always notice us on the first reveal. So I can't really test the pathing part easily right now. But I will in a moment. Yeah, so we're crossing the river. We can see the river going up this way, and then we have some slimes that we'll have to fight. Okay, we can try and run away. They're not going to be able to reach us on the second attack, and now we're so far away that they're going to go to the purple, which is to chase, and we can still outrun them. Okay, and then we're transitioning to a map that doesn't exist yet. I'll say that, like, my favorite tutorial series for Unity is Liquid Fire Blogs. It was kind of a starting point for some of my, like, tile map stuff. Like, a lot of the good tile stuff is still kind of heavily based off of Liquid Fire Blogs. Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced tutorial. I was trying to think of the words. It's a bit old now. Technically, that blog post tutorial is from, like, many years ago, and I don't know if it holds up with modern Unity. But there's some really good, valuable stuff there if you're looking for some base tutorials. And if you're already familiar with C#. I think this is good. Sorry, processing. I think this is okay. We've got this map done. We're moving on. Maybe I am fading. So we've got here to here to here to here to here to here. So we need 2 more before we can get all the way to the other side of the Trapped Adventurer. Still a little bit more. Let's go back to the boot screen. And I want to try doing a full run and start to see how this is feeling. Found a tutorial from 2019, oldish but really useful. It's 10 hours with timestamps covering most things. Oh, super awesome. Yeah, this is not this content. This content is not super helpful. In a lot of ways, a lot of what I do when I'm streaming is just like keeping me focused. Because like the ADHD brain in me just like wants to wander off. Like if the build takes like right there, domain loading took like a moment, and in that moment I feel like I would have went and found a YouTube video or something while I was waiting. It's just like it's so easy to wander. But when I'm streaming, I've got to be like on and talking through my problems, and because I'm constantly trying to figure stuff out and trying to explain it, it like keeps me focused in a way that I find I can't really accomplish otherwise. Oh, I stomped my autosave. I was like, why am I starting in this map? I need to load up I think I made a permanent save in the 3rd slot earlier. But yeah, I feel like streaming is almost more for me than it is for anyone else. Just like the ability to like just focus so heavily is so helpful. Almost managed to sneak around him. I should be able to outrun. I feel like I want to do something about the delay after every step. Like, we can move freely when there isn't an enemy on the screen, but whenever there's an enemy up, it just feels like it slows the game down. Like, I want the game to feel almost action while being turn-based, which is a hard thing to accomplish. Okay, that cutscene makes less sense when the boar isn't spawned and attacking, but we'll figure that out later. Okay, so can we... Yeah, it just slows things down so much. I guess the other option is that I just fight the slime, and then it would be a lot quicker than trying to run away, but maybe I don't hate that tension, like trying to force the player into it, but I still feel like it could be more fluid to move when the enemy is trying to like track. But it's because I add a little bit of a delay so you can see like the timer counting down, but it just ends up making it feel awful when you're trying to move away from them. Okay, that didn't feel so bad trying to deal with that enemy. Okay, defend. That'll parry. Oh, we ran out of time. Oh, I missed the clock. I'm gonna have to pay more attention. That's a fundamental problem, is the fact that our game, like, this game runs... Okay, so the way the game works is that you have so much time to do a run. If you don't finish the run before the timer runs out, then you... Basically, the Demon Lord resurrects and destroys the world. And so... the fact that the timer running out isn't clear is kind of a big deal. Why is the timer not moving? Is that the problem? Maybe that's why I didn't notice. Is the timer bugged? Oh. When did that break? You don't have to have this cutscene. We've already seen this. Oh, I need to regenerate the floor on that one. Oko says, nice game loop. Sorry, I may have missed that. Are you just referring to like the idea of like doing runs? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's like a mix of like Hades almost, where you have to keep going back to this like main central hub area, and like kind of like a Final Fantasy game, or like a dungeon crawler. I don't know. It's like kind of like a roguelike where you do runs, but at the same time, it's not really like a roguelike because there isn't like a power progression. You don't get stronger in the run. You actually, when you fight enemies, you gain skills with your weapons, and then when you go back to the goddess realm, you can spend the skill points you've earned by using that weapon to get stronger, so you can get further and deal with these enemies more quickly without running out of time. So it's got like an RPG kind of idea to it. Yeah, what's going on with this? This is a new bug that we saw earlier this stream as well. I don't know why the enemies' health bars are remaining forever too. There's a couple of new bugs that we've run into that I'm gonna have to dig into before we go too much further, because like it's actually blocking testing. Because I want to see if we can get to so Oko says, so Hades mixed with Final Fantasy Tactics, but instead of hell, it's heaven. Nice. Well, I mean, kind of. So the central idea is it's very much an isekai. Like, if you're familiar with anime, I'm trying to make like a resurrected in a new world kind of vibe, which funnily enough is Final Fantasy Tactics Advance in some regards as well. But it's a little more on the nose with this. And so the idea is that you get resurrected into this new world and you have to defeat the Demon Lord, and you're kind of stuck in individual time loops. So in chapter 1, you're stuck in the forest, and you have to keep doing loops in the forest until you can figure out how to progress the story. And then when you get to chapter 2, you'll get into the forest ruins, which is like a dungeon labyrinth type experience. And in chapter 2, you'll always start at the beginning of the labyrinth, trying to figure out how to defeat it within the allotted amount of time. And so each chapter is kind of like its own little sandbox of exploration. If that follows. So At least that's what we're trying to do. I'm still prototyping it. But like a central piece is, I'm gonna start in a new game. But a central piece is also like this idea of like runs having like power from like, okay. So one of the central ideas is, I'm gonna just show it here, it's easier, is that we're trying to set up this situation, which I think is gonna be pretty pretty fundamental to teaching the player what this game is about. But we start in this first room in the forest. You're going to be able to move up, you'll find a sword, you'll gain the ability to unlock the slash ability, and you'll be able to fight your first slime. And then when you head to the right, you're going to run into this trapped adventurer on the other side of the river. And they're going to be being beaten up by a boar, and they're going to ask for your help. But in order to get to them, you're going to have to walk all the way around to come from the north side to get to the other side of the river. And when you get to this side, you'll find like a blood splatter next to the river, and the weapon they were using, like a hammer or a mace. We're still trying to figure out what weapon we want to go with, but there'll be essentially a weapon. And when you pick up that weapon, you'll absorb it and gain the bash ability, basically like a heavy hit. But the implication is the adventurer has died and fallen into the river. But when you start the next run doesn't have you just starting again. It has you starting in at like 6 a.m. day one, like Majora's Mask. But now you have the mace. So now you can go up to this point where the river was, where the adventurer was trapped on the other side of the river, and there'll be a dead tree that you can use your mace on to knock it over, making a bridge, allowing you to reach the adventurer and save them before they die. Because basically the amount of time it takes you to walk around, they end up being dead. And so I want to play with this idea of almost like Elden Ring environmental storytelling, where you'll see things in the environment be like, oh, what happened here? And then if you get to that point earlier in a run, you might actually see the events that led to that environmental storytelling. And I think this is a central piece of that, is like the adventurer has died, you start another run, you save the adventurer. And then every run after that, you can save the adventurer and unlock this path, this shortcut by crossing the river with the mace, and you now no longer have to go around this way, saving you potentially a fair amount of time, because you can get to this G6 part of the grid and then explore deeper into the forest without having to kind of track all the way around. So it's both representing a progression in terms of being able to save people, but also a progression in terms of like, you know, each run doesn't have to be the same map. Well, it is the same map, but it's potentially you can take different routes and gain more progression in maybe not a yeah, it's a Dark Souls shortcut things. Sounds cool. Do you have a plan on releasing it when it's done? We do. I don't know when though. Like, because this is a hobby title and it is something I do in between like real game dev, like, but it just like, sometimes I get really into it and I get a ton of progress done, and sometimes I don't. My wife, Drixie, who's done all the pixel art for it, has been pushing to be like, we should cut features. We should make it simpler. We should get something out. Because originally when we started doing game dev 5 years ago, we were building a different game. And then when we switched to infinite retries to defeat the Demon Lord about 2 years ago, the idea was that this would be a shorter game that we could just test getting out on Steam. But I just keep bloating it with features and like adding more narrative and story. And at some point I just have to accept that I want to make a story game. I don't know if I can tell a good story. That's maybe a fatal flaw of trying to make one, but like, I want to try. It's the thing that I'm driven, it seems like, to keep coming back to. Because originally we started this as more of a traditional roguelike experience, something more akin to like a Hades, which is funny because when I was describing it to people, people were like, it sounds like Hades. And I was like, I had not played that game. And then I went and played Hades and went, yeah, this is what I'm trying to do, but like a more polished, well executed and well understood kind of loop. But I was already kind of getting to that same idea. But yeah, I feel like I want to get something out there. So we're trying to figure out like, how do we kind of simplify this concept in such a way that it can be done quickly, so that we can put something out. But at the very least, I would like to get a demo of maybe just chapter 1, like this forest area I'm describing, like just get that out, and then we can work on maybe another 7 chapters until you beat the game. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure how long that would be. I don't know pricing. Like, that's all stuff I don't really fully understand. I just want to make video games. But I'll have to figure that stuff out at some point. I'm starting a new run just because I want to see what's going on with the timer. Like, I'm not sure why the timer wasn't progressing, and I have a feeling that was because of a bug from the last save, because we hadn't set up the timer to unlock properly. We hadn't built that cutscene. So I'm just gonna do another run. But yeah, I don't know. I will put it out at some point. But I originally started this project with the idea of like, oh, this will be a quick year, like 12 months to make this game. And now we're at 2 years in, and I'm still not finished, like, even what I would consider enough to be like chapter 1 / a demo. Actually, what I'm doing right now is going through the whole game. Like, part of it is because I keep rebuilding the first chapter too. Like, originally it was a very different layout, and it was just like more linear. And then as we've moved more towards trying to reduce that linearity, I made it way more open and free. But then it was very easy to miss some of the stuff I was describing with like the adventurer. So earlier today we started the stream, and I've been just trying to like get to this new version where you can't miss the adventurer, but then it opens up and becomes more exploration based after this like real important moment about teaching you how the game works. She's fine, don't worry about it. We want to change that animation to her like taking in, like falling to her knees, not necessarily collapsing on the floor dead, but we don't have a good animation for that yet. Okay, so here we have our timer. It is counting down, so that's working correctly. Let's make another save. Maybe I'm just going to save over this one because I think it was in a bad state. And let's see what happens when we run out of time, if it starts working correctly or if it stays permanently broken. Can I outrun you? I should be able to. The slime moves too and then attacks. And then if we're far enough away, it moves infinitely. Oh, interesting. It moved over the water tiles. The slime doesn't care about water tiles? Oh, that's a fun bug I hadn't seen before. Thanks, Oko. I'm gonna try and start streaming consistently on Sunday. This is week 2 of consistent Sunday streaming, from 2 to 4 PST and from 6 to 8 PST. If it's 2 a.m. for you, that might be a bit late, but thank you for stopping in this evening at the very least. Discord is also a good spot for when I spontaneously try and fit a stream in as well. Discord's where I'm most likely to update. Appreciate the company and the chat. It's always nice to have someone to kind of conversate with, or conversate? Well, what is that word? But it's fun to not just be rambling on my own. Although I do get a lot done even when I'm rambling on my own. Yeah, I'm almost done here too. Like, this is, for me, it's already 9. So I said 6 to 8. I'm already an hour over where I want it to be. Or when I want it to be ending. But I just want to see what's going on with the timer now. Yeah, because, yeah, it's already 3:18. I said I wanted to go an extra hour, but now it's been an hour and 20. I really should call it. But we're getting so much done. Feels like we're making progress. Alright, ran out of time. We collapse. The Demon Lord's miasma suffocates us as it overwhelms. And then we return here, and then we can do another run. Should come back in with a full 2 hours again. Yep. And the timer is counting down. So that save was bugged. I'm not sure how it got in that bug state, though. Maybe I should have... I probably shouldn't have overwritten it, because I may have been able to debug it. But again, I think it might have just been a bad cutscene, because we were kind of building up these new maps. And I think it was just a cutscene wasn't enabled at the right time originally, but now it's fixed. So in order for us to get to this point, we're already at 1 hour remaining. So if we want to have the first run being getting all the way around to G7, I think we're going to need to give you more time. Yeah, well, obviously we're going to need to give you more time, but I think I might need to give a lot more time. Drixie's also been pushing to get rid of the stopwatch idea and go to an actual clock. So instead of like starting with like 2 hours remaining, we might want to... I got to figure out what's going on with this too. This is new. Oh, we're hard broken. This only just started. On death notification. Okay. I'm just going to check if the autosave is broken. And then I think we're going to call it. And I'm going to need to figure out what's going on with that, the death, because that was not happening last stream. Autosave, load. So we've got 1 hour, 59. Yeah, it's still counting down correctly. This is an old bug. If you leave while the enemy is trying to move, it breaks. Because of some cutscene stuff that's kind of happening in the background. Yeah, you need to at least let the enemy move around at least once before trying to leave. If you enter a scene and leave at the same time as the enemy, it's fine. Anyways, point is that we're good. The timer seems to be fixed. If I start a new run, I'm gonna call it here. We'll be back next Sunday from 2 to 4 PST. Then I'll take a break for dinner and I'll come back from 6. And I say 6 to 8, but it may end up being like this again, depending on how my energy level. I may end up going, you know, longer, but might be 6 to 9:30 like tonight. But I'm gonna at least try for 6 to 8. Yeah, gonna keep building the video game. Check out the Discord. I may do impromptu streams. I think I might be able to fit in Thursdays, but I don't know if it'll be this Thursday. But I'm looking at the schedule and I might be able to make Thursdays work in the future. Again, Discord's the best place for impromptu, but consistent on Sundays.